Hello, fellow YouTubers, and today we're discussing the idea of leaving while you're hot, or on top if you prefer. The idea came to me watching a Dal X-Man video where he was talking about CM Punk, but this isn't just about him, so don't click off or you'll miss an amazing, thought-provoking conversation. Anyway, being as I brought him up, we'll start there. I try to hit into different areas, so bear with me. So CM Punk was a professional wrestler who rose from the bottom and made his way to the top. He became a 7-time world champion, which granted means nothing in a scripted sport. Back to the topic though. He recently retired pretty much out of the blue. It was like January 27th. Honestly, if you sit down and watch a Raw one week, most likely a CM Punk chant will break out. And I get why. He's a great entertainer and performer, which, in my opinion, are the two biggest things in the company. But he's accomplished everything. Literally everything. The only thing he debatably didn't do that he could do is main event WrestleMania, which he sorta did, being as the streak matches were typically bigger than the main event. He pretty much left the second most popular wrestler on the show. And that's only behind John Cena, which nobody is more popular than John Cena. He went out on top on his conditions, and from my understanding, he's expecting, so yeah, good day to be CM Punk. Now to view it in another way I have already on this channel, sitcoms. I love these sitcoms, so it's not hate, but yeah, Roseanne's last season sucked so bad. If you pretend it didn't happen, the show is pretty great. Also, that 70s show. It's an amazing show right up until the last season. They went on for too long and they lost that peak. Its complete opposite happens too, though. Perfect example, Freaks and Geeks. This is a cult classic, maybe even past cult at this point. But it lasted only one season. Can you believe that? If you're a fan, you've probably thought more about it than the time it took to make the show. One subject, the show left as perfectly as it could. If it would have continued, it couldn't have stayed as amazing as it left. Think about it. If there would have been a sucky season 2, then you'd have half of the total episodes suck, and the other half are classics. This also happens quite a bit in music. Feel free to give me a history lesson, as I was born in 94, so I could very well be wrong, but Kurt Cobain died in 94. About a year after the release of In Utero, which is Nirvana's last album of new material. To the public, this is a huge change. Nevermind is classic. I doubt anybody with music sense puts Nevermind outside of their top 10 albums of all time. But In Utero, it isn't quite as good. I'm sure there are people out there who argue that, and they're like, oh, well, it's grungier. Yeah, it's grungier, but Nirvana was famous for kind of taking grunge and popifying it. So you can kind of see the magic started running out. And then Kurt died, and this allowed Nirvana to remain forever in the rock legend category. They released 3 albums. That's all they released, and they're rock legends. Now, I don't know if grunge lost its popularity because of Kurt's death, or if it just dropped badly when 16 Stone came out. But there was also I want to say it's like there's the Bush album, the Live album, a Green Day album, and the Offspring album. I want to say they all came out in 94, like between those 3 months. Between when Kurt died and like July. But you have to assume that the next Nirvana album would have been worse than their first 3. Or it definitely wouldn't have been as successful. Another example of leaving on top is Star Wars. And I will make a mockery out of myself, being as I've never sat down and watched more than an hour of one movie. But I do know most people agree the original trilogies are classics, and the prequels, I think they're prequels. Sorry if I'm wrong, Star Wars fans, but they view them as a stain on the legacy of the franchise. If they would have stopped on top, the legacy's reputation would still be intact. I think what it boils down to is money and the thought of invincibility. When a brand is successful, you think you can ride that forever, but that's way harder than you'd think. For example, name a sitcom that remained on air for more than a decade, and I'm talking on air with new episodes. Name a band with #1 hits spanning more than a decade. When you're on top, you feel so amazing, you figure you can squeeze a few more dollars out of loyal fans by releasing an album of songs that leave that fan disappointed and listening to 808s and Heartbreaks instead. Sorry for that. Plus, pushing the envelope is actually kind of fun. We all know that. So, that about wraps it up. Any comment, drop them in the box in the comment section below. I have nothing better to do than read your comments at 3 a.m. I must be lonely. Anyway, peace out, homeskullets.